Oh, yeah. This might be more helpful for those who aren't here. Cool. So what'd you guys think of that video? Oh, don't everybody speak up at once.
The tails were moving faster than the tips.
Okay. I get
Moving more than the tips.
Yeah.
You know, very smooth and very controlled, right?
Pretty good skiing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty good skiing. And here he is. But I could argue that too, that the tips are moving pretty good too. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
all tail. The tips are turning also. This very
Yeah,
good.
It
I
just
thought-
looks like he's sliding the tails. That's, I mean, the tips are definitely engaged, but it looks like and I think that's what he wants to be doing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's his intent, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Pretty nice.
are the
smooth
feet
shape.
not too close together?
Well, that's what I was thinking, Rebecca, that it's like
'Cause
a
that was,
two-footed intentional keeping the skis together in order to get the skis to move like that. Keeping
Yeah.
it together like a two-foot, like pretending you have 1 foot, not two, just sort of simultaneously move
yeah,
both
it-
skis, pressuring both skis.
it's kind of mono ski.
Mono skiing, yeah, okay. And he's an older gentleman. Maybe of a particular age. I wouldn't
we're
call this
talk-
vadling, but
If we're talking dirt, look at the speed, the rate at which the turn happens in the latter half,
yeah,
from transition onward to finish.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's sliding his tails to use for speed control.
do you think that's intentional?
I do.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's how he's controlling his speed, so it's nice and smooth and consistent as he's almost overturning the tails to slow down.
But this
Mhm.
is pretty flat terrain.
This has been kind of an important concept in that Chris Crusoe calls the last 3 weeks. And about that transition phase. My argument is that transition is where you go from disengagement to engagement again. Where do the skis engage?
They don't engage until late in the
Late.
turn.
There.
I think they're engaging way before the fall line.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there.
So it looks to me that there's a fair amount of angulation going on and dip of the hip. So
Cool.
that he's utilizing that as counter, which is both his balance and also his speed control. He's extremely even, and I think that's part of the reason that he is even, is that the hips and the flexion of the ankle and the hip allow that control of the ski.
Yeah, granted, he's not going very fast, is he? So
Chuck-
he's kind of hyper overdoing it.
So you're right, his engagement occurs early, but is it an effective engagement? No.
I think that might be intentional, though.
I think that's intentional, yeah.
I
mean,
think it's
the
intentional.
I want to
Tips
know
are
what he
coming
wants
around
with
quite
turns.
quickly.
Like, obviously, this might not be how he skis all the time. He's
Oh,
intentionally
no.
doing these. So what do they call these turns? What is it? What's the
Oh,
tap?
I would probably call them like swisher turns. Like slow, low speed, slow, basic parallels. Except they're a little bit more performancy. I mean, would you want to do this from top to bottom?
No,
Well, maybe in the east you would, but in top to bottom out in the west, I'm 100% sure that I would not want to do this.
It seems like
So-
it's exhausting.
Huh?
Chuck, would you say he's getting all that rotation by rotating his hips?
He has a little bit of hip rotation in there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I'm going to also argue that he's a man of a certain age, and that hip rotation, he may be hitting his limit. Cause he's really bringing those skis across the hill.
Yeah.
More than you would normally do, right? This
Mhm.
is way further than 10-2. This is like even 11-1. This is like 9:30 to 2:30.
Yeah,
Right
I
there,
was gonna say 9-3.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that saying somebody's age is irrelevant as to whether the turns are efficient in accomplishing the goal.
So would you call this a good blend?
In some ways, in others, I mean, I think that if you're demonstrating rotation of the legs independent of the upper body, I think he's doing a great job there.
Okay.
And to start saying, well, we forgive him because he's old,
Well, I
or,
mean, that's really bringing the skis across the hill a lot. A
yeah,
lot. Like you wouldn't do that anywhere except for this kind of a turn.
well, what is his intent?
Exactly. He's trying to demonstrate. So the big reason why I brought this guy up is how is he creating edging?
Pushing his feet.
Knee
He's
angulation.
He's tilting. Yeah, with flexation of the legs, the joints, he's tilting from going from edge right there to edge.
Yeah. What parts are you tilting and when?
He has a lot of knee
There's a little bit of knees.
flexation,
Yeah.
a lot of knee flexation in my mind, and ankle, little bit of ankle, normal angle, but those hips too are pretty low, it seems.
Water, please. Thank you.
so he's tipping his lower legs.
Yep.
To create those edge angles. I think, Joanne, you just mentioned that. To me, that's occurring right there.
Yep.
So
At the apex,
He's really
almost-
tipping his feet.
Yep. I would agree. He's tipping his feet. Is he inclining?
a little bit of inclination.
Yeah, when? When is all this happening?
It seems like it
Like
inclines
right
at
here, right?
the beginning of the turn.
In the
It's a
initiation
pretty
of the turn.
Thank you. So that's inclination there, isn't it?
Yeah, right at the beginning.
We have a little bit of
Absolutely.
Oh,
upside down, right? And then we get to here, and then when he's really gets to the meat of it, there's the inclination or the angulation. And it's a little bit more knee here than hip. And then when he gets to here, I'm gonna guess that there's probably a little bit more hip. And then he moves pretty well from one side to the other. I mean, he releases, he moves over. Yeah, there's inclination. And then
well,
this might be a little over rotation right here.
the definition is a combination of inclination and angulation, so.
Love you. Thank you. That's really what I look for. I think all in all, and this is my personal opinion, I think he's just doing a really good blend of all the skills. And if we're gonna silo out edging, I think he's doing a really good job of getting in an edge angle early and then regulating that edge angle throughout the turn. So when he gets more edge angle, it's available to him.
He showed up in your class for a lesson. What would you work on?
Well, the first thing I'd ask him is, why are your feet so close together? How do you think that's going to affect your skiing later on? It's fine down here, right?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, like take him on a steeper terrain, maybe some bumpy terrain and see how he handles that.
Yeah, I mean,
see, I think he's doing that deliberately. I don't think he
Yeah,
skis like that
I
all
think
the
he's a
time.
very skilled skier, and he is demonstrating something
Yeah.
here, low
This-
easy trail to show
Yeah.
maybe the blend or whatever Spain does.
Mhm.
Lauren said this is outside of Spain, in Spain or. somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, this video didn't have a title in it. You know what I mean? And so I can't, doesn't really allude to what his intent was. But yeah, I mean, if I had to pick on something, I'd be like, those feet are awfully close together, but maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not. I don't know, it's pretty good skiing.
But his rotational skills, I think, are really, really good.
He has
If
very,
that's what he's demonstrating.
yeah, a little bit more on one side than the other. Like this
Yeah.
side's really good. And this side sometimes is a little quick at the top.
Does he look to you like he's a lead change? He's pushing his inside foot ahead every turn a little, I mean, really, that's what it looks like to me from the back.
I think he's pushing both skis around with the inside
Oh.
foot.
Yep.
He looks like he's pushing from the back too, to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Oh.
Scott said this earlier, the backs of the skis are moving slightly more than the fronts.
But you know what I'm also thinking? Number one, how old is this guy? Did he
Yeah,
learn to ski? How long has he been skiing? You see a lot of people, like I learned to ski in the 60s, the 70s. I taught in the late 70s and 80s, and our skis were together, and we skied on the backs of our skis, like in the 70s. And he's probably learned to ski with the skis really close, pushing them from side to side, and maybe he's now much more it's much more modern skiing, but still some vestiges of how he learned are still there. Could
yeah,
that be?
I would agree. I would agree. I think
Mhm.
he's, like I said, I think he's a gentleman of a certain age. He
Mhm.
definitely probably skied on straighter skis.
Yeah,
Straighter
in a
skis had
different
little
style.
bit- Yeah, had a little bit different kind of rotary mechanics. For
Yes.
It was
Mhm.
a lot less rotating in the legs and a lot more counter.
So
Counter.
it's hard when you got somebody like that skied like that their whole life. Now you want to open their stance. It's a
Well,
whole nother ball game. It's
yeah, and you know,
changed.
and the key here is that you don't want to take anything away. You want to add to,
Right,
right?
right.
So yeah, I think all in all, what you've indicated to me is that the data collected here is a little too thin.
The data's thing.
You need to ask more questions and see them in different kinds of.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Cool. I
Hmm.
got, okay, all right, yeah. Anybody wondering? Is this the resort near Girona, Spain? I don't know. Is it? Masella? Oh, you read that off the thing there? Okay. It must be late spring skiing because it doesn't look like any of the lifts are running. Cool.
Did anyone see the last video that Deb Armstrong put out regarding the
Yes,
fundamentals?
Oh, man,
Yes.
everybody is talking about that.
Mm,
You
I don't know if I saw
literally
it.
cannot get away from that right now. And for somebody who grew up in the stepping stones in the central line, I understand it's nostalgia. I really do. It was a very, very kind of linear progression in a lot of ways. We had wedge turns, we had wedge Christie ones, we had wedge Christie twos, we had parallels, basic parallels, open parallels, diverging parallels. Bumps were kind of not really on the center line. And the problem that they had with the center line that everybody kind of must have forgotten, because I remember this from the 90s when they were talking about the center line, is that some of these new specialty skiing that we do, park skiing and tree skiing and lots of off-piste crazy stuff, didn't really fit the center line very well. Bumps was not really considered on the center line. It was kind of off in a different direction. And so when they adopted the idea of having the three skills and breaking them out into fundamentals, I think a lot of the center line kind of lost some of its work. But they also had stepping stones. So you step from wedge to wedge Christies to basic parallels to all the way up too. So they had all these little stepping stones too. And she alluded to all that. And I had the exact same argument that she did back in the 90s, because there seemed to be this divergence back in the 90s of pretty skiing, which is what the PSIA wanted to do, and racing functional skiing over here. And there was like no overlap anymore. PSI was doing their thing over here and racing was doing their thing over here. And she might be reacting to some of that might be happening now again. I haven't necessarily seen it, but I am riding the same train when she says that the people we need to be looking at are all the racers. I 100% agree with that. That is where the cutting edge of all skiing is happening. And that's why, I've fallen for this idea of showing a lot more racing and a lot higher end skiing. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question. That's my take, according to, nobody.
The word according to Chuck.
The word according to, my little lowly life. All right, cool. So I have a little slide presentation because, why not? And I'm building again based on what AJ did last year. And I'm just kind of picking parts and pieces out. So this is what does the fundamental say? Control edge angles through a combination of inclination and angulation. You guys know all that, right? No mystery there. What does the technical manual say? None of this has changed any. I've just kind of added new pictures to it. Edge control, the ability to tip the skis on edge and adjust angles between. Again, these are very siloed, except for maybe the third one. Skiers must move laterally to balance against the forces that act on the skis when tipped on edge. That one sounds very familiar. So the last couple weeks we've been talking about stuff. Inclination and angulation are terms used to describe body movements relative to the skill of skiing. So we'll be talking about inclination, we'll be talking about angulation, we'll also be talking about the third one. Does everybody know what the third one is? And you can't say it, Gordon, I know what you're gonna say. Anybody know what the third way that you can create edge angles? Cool.
Tipping the ski
Banking.
Huh?
would be tipping the ski.
Well,
You-
the outcome is tipping the
Yes.
ski.
You're talking about banking.
No, not banking.
No.
Banking is a form of inclination.
Yes.
The angle to the slope.
We'll be talking about that too, but that's not it.
Hmm.
Good.
Keep-
You guys are going to learn something tonight. It's very, very common. We see it all the time in our beginner skiers. So just bear with me. It's coming up. All right. So what do you guys know about edging? And primarily, the movement's primarily in the frontal plane, correct? This way.
Well, you want to start it from the ankles.
Okay, cool.
You
Yeah.
want to start it closest to the skis.
I am not going to disagree. I'm not going to necessarily agree, but yes. And we'll talk. I'll indicate why, Scotty. Because I think ideally, yes, we want to do that. What body parts are we talking about?
Knees, ankles,
Yeah.
hips, spine.
Well, those are the areas that create the angles, but yes, that's kind of what we're talking about. And
Right.
we're still under the illusion that the pelvis is part of the upper body, always.
So it's just the legs.
The legs are the parts that move, but we're creating angles, right? That's what angulation does.
Well, I've heard you, Chuck, talk about how ski to ski pressure, relates to this edge angle, but I see a lot of rotation, lower body separation. Are those the two fundamentals that are more related, the rotation and edging?
Well, all of them are present all the time, right?
Right.
In my mind, I almost feel, I'm gonna let you guys answer this question. Which one do you think is? which
Prevalent.
one Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, for in like this picture, I feel like rotation and edging are prevalent versus ski to ski, but it is ski to ski. He's
Yeah,
so
no.
wonderfully balanced over his skis with, angulation or
He's got like brilliant angulation, doesn't he?
yeah. So I feel like rotation and edging here are prevalent, like the primary two fundamentals here, though ski to ski is obviously present.
Cool.
Well,
Well, I
I
mean, you
think
could
rotational
have,
separation helps you with your edging.
See, that's what I was thinking.
That's,
Like,
you
that's
can
what
have-
they're looking for.
you can have edging without rotation like in railroad tracks.
You can, yes.
yeah, I'm thinking of this
If
demonstration.
you're looking for rotational separation is the key that we're talking about, right? Because you can technically you can have lateral separation without rotational separation, but it's like bad. You're not going to want to do that. It puts you in a very awkward and very weak position. But as soon as you add a rotational separation to your lateral separation, it puts you in a very strong position. So what we're seeing here is very, very good lateral separation with rotational separation. What's the Gen Met saying? You could have rotational separation without lateral separation, but you really can't have lateral separation without rotational separation. I think that this little GIF right here really shows why. So yes, Joanne, you're right. A lot of rotation happening there. And it's helping him get to the ski edge. And then the little part that, I'm trying to not dive into the mechanics of the ski too much, but there are some self-driving features of which we already know by now. I mean, you put the ski on edge and you pressure it, and guess what it's going to do?
And
Gonna turn.
engage and rotate.
Yeah, it's going to do stuff, right? Anything else?
Can you just repeat? You said lateral separation.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then-
Rotate.
and then-
You can have rotational separation without lateral separation. So this is rotational separation.
Okay,
You can have you can have lateral separation this way, but it's not fun. And it doesn't put you in a good position. But as soon as you add some rotational separation, it's very easy to have lateral separation.
got it. All right. Yeah.
Okay. So the key is that you can have rotational separation without lateral separation. But you can't have lateral separation without rotational separation. Cool. Key point, we pound that home a lot. All right. The 3 recognized ways to tip our skis. And obviously you guys know what inclination is. I like this. I found this on a YouTube video. Really good video, actually. So he's definitely inclining, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And his center of mass, his upper body is moving to the inside of the turn. And then we have angulation. And angulation refers to the lateral movements creating angles in ankles, knees, hips, and spine, regulates pressure created through finer angle adjustments. But the key is that even though when you incline this way, the upper body kind of moves to the out. Okay, and that's how we create these angles. Hopefully it looks more like this. Like this. And then the last one is displacement. And displacement's where you literally pick up a ski and you move it out. You take it up like this. you move it out here.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can step turn, you can step into that racing, start that turn early in a racing turn.
Yeah, you could do it that way. There's lots of things that happen. We see it mostly in kids and beginners, right? I like have a pretty good, where is that at? Oh yeah, here it is. Displacement. I have a pretty good video of someone who's doing a really nice job of displacing. Frank. And you could pretty much tell if it's displacement because where's his body weight aligned?
It's always to the inside of the,
Yeah, he even like leans to the
He-
inside, right? He leans the other way. He leans this way. It's like TikTok motion. And he's just sticking that leg out and he's hoping it's got enough angle on it that it'll actually grip the snow and
Mm,
keep him from flying down the hill.
mhm.
On Scary Larry at Winter Park.
Oh, Larry yard sale, baby. Yep,
Mm.
you know why he was doing that then. Try not to die. You get over that little rise, you look down, you go, ooh, okay. And that's
Yeah,
usually,
he
when
was,
then there's a
he
nice
was,
flick spot right there too.
yeah, skiing right over where the spring comes out and it turns
Yeah.
to ice.
Yeah, perfect.
so that would be like the principle of a step turn.
Yeah, kind of the principle of a step turn, because you can actually finish a turn this way and then go up here and then start the next turn by going in. It's a little bit different than this, but not necessarily that much different. Like a stem would be a good example of a displacement. But
It's
not
also how,
necessarily a wedge
that's-
Christie.
how some people try and get pressure to the outside ski. They keep pushing it away. They extend it fully and then they got to displace it or move it outward from the hip to try and keep pressure.
Yeah. Wedge is a form of displacement, right? We create edges by spreading our legs apart. And then the skis go up on edge automatically. And then we fight the idea that we want to flatten the ski. You know, you gotta get them to bend their legs and open their ankles just a little bit so that they can flatten the ski and then they can be more functional. Then they can roll up on the edge if they want to, or they can be more functional. But anyway, that's another day. All right, what inclination is not? Here's your banking thing. And really the thing that really kind of describes the difference is that, and this is not 100% all the time, but if they're trying to align over the outside leg, you can usually see the body position change. Like the guy on the right, that's technically it's banking in a moment in time, but you can tell there's a long leg, short leg starting there. He's starting to drop in. You could almost argue this is a little bit of a toppling move. And he's ready to start to angulate his hips and knees. Where the guy on the left is doing everything he can not to. Does this help with banking? You know, it's really hard to find a video or a picture of somebody intentionally banking.
Mm,
Well, because banking is just like 1 second before eating snow.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. Actually, I
Park
gotta do
skiers
that.
bank a lot, especially in between jumps and if they're going backwards, you just see them bank, like when they're skiing switch.
Oh, yeah, you see those guys bank all the time, right? But they break a lot of rules.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
break a lot of rules.
Well, you can get away with quite a bit of banking as long as you're going faster and you're not hitting anything real hard. So you have more pressure to the inside ski, but somebody with good balance and having enough speed, the pressure builds to the outside, they'll get away with it. But I was skiing Keystone on opening day last year, and I was skiing behind a kid that was just banking. And then he hits a patch of ice and his feet just go out from under him and he goes off into the trees because he was relying completely on banking. He had no pressure to the outside ski.
And without, I mean, you almost, when you start talking about banking, you almost have to start bringing in another fundamental. Because, I mean, what is this guy doing at the end of the turn, right? He's like right here. And he's 100% totally square. And remember that thing about lateral separation without rotational separation? It makes it hard to put a lot of pressure on the outside ski if you're not actually like in a position to do it.
He's got a little bit of displacement going on too.
Oh, but yeah, and I want, you know, I wonder if the displacement is a cause or an effect. I
Right,
kind of feel like it's an effect. Because he just struggles to get pressure on the outside ski.
right there. There's perfect. That was perfect stop.
He just struggles to get pressure on the outside ski. Because look, his body's out racing his lower body, right? His upper body. Oh, and then there's a big twist, and no, there we go again. This is about the best I have for banking. Well, other than this girl in red right here is pretty much doing it too. And even though he does have a little bit of a long leg, short leg relationship, don't let it confuse you. Because he does not look like this, does not look like this on the right. He's over rotated. Questions? Cool. Wink. All right, what does it look like? And I like this. I found this sequence on somebody else's, you know, it looks a little bit like it's squished. These are your retraction turns, aren't they? Here's our retraction turns again. The outside leg is definitely shortening faster than the inside leg, but they're both shortening. They're all coming up. So is there anything else you guys look at when you're looking at edging? I'm talking about from an MA standpoint.
I think we also have to look at dirt.
Yeah, we always got to be looking at dirt, right?
You know, is how quickly do the skis get on edge? How quickly do they change edges? And is it progressive or is it abrupt? And I think that also depends on the terrain and intent.
So that goes to that first point when we're talking about the ideal. Skis tip aggressively and simultaneously through one smooth movement.
Yeah, the point of the dirt that we talk about a lot is when do the skis engage
Yeah,
for edging? That's a critical piece.
it is. It really is. That's why it's, you know, when we start talking about pressure regulation, regulating the magnitude of pressure, you know, I really liked what Chris did the other day, where he said one fundamental plus another fundamental plus a third fundamental plus the fourth fundamental equals the fifth fundamental. The one that I came up with, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago was, if you had to make a statement about how all the other fundamentals interact with each other, you're talking about regulating the magnitude pressure through ski snow interaction. Basically, it's kind of the same thing. It's just a little bit differently worded. But yeah, when we're talking about siloing, edging, we're talking about tipping and untipping progressively and simultaneously. This is like really, really good because these skis definitely are at the same angle almost entirely through the turn. All right. Any other things that you might look at? One of the things I look at all the time are the shin angles. Are they similar? Or are they different? Right? Because there might be some A-frames that are happening. You know, displacement definitely is going to be one of those where one shin angle is going to be way different than the other. Those are going to be some things I'll look at.
And look at the vertical separation of the skis too.
I will look
That
at
comes into
Yep.
it.
Yep. I'll also look at how straight the outside leg is. Because like that last guy we just looked at, right? Let's see if he's still up there. Yeah, he's still there. So this guy, last guy here, right? He's got like really straight outside leg. How well do you think he's going to angulate?
Yeah.
It'll be really hard to angulate.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any range of motion left.
But Jack, next week when you do part 2, you're gonna talk about dumping the hip and show some examples.
Yep, I'm going to be talking about toppling too.
Mm.
Toppling, yeah. Toppling. And really, really, it's going to be a whole lot about, you know, I mean, we're talking, we were saying something already about, you know, outside ski pressure versus edging and how they're so closely related to each other. Because you can put the ski on edge, but without any pressure, it's not going to do anything. And if you just pressure the ski without edging it, it's really not going to do anything. So they are very, very closely related. And the long leg, short leg part of it is really, really important because as we lengthen one leg and shorten the other, that automatically puts the skis on edge. Same thing on the other side. And then for really effective
Want to go
skiing,
down?
that idea of aligning over the
Oh.
outside ski, you just can't ignore aligning over the outside ski. Because the most important edge when you're making a turn is the inside
go.
edge of the outside ski.
Oh, okay, he was,
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna let you guys, what do you guys feel when you do this stuff? You can pick out ankles. I don't want to dive too much into biomechanics. I do like the idea, though, that if you rotate your lower leg, how that affects your ankles in terms of tipping, pronating, and supinating. But there's like a one-to-one relationship. So if I turn my inner leg in, rotate it in, how that automatically causes the foot to supinate.
I don't, for me, it's this progressive build of pressure,
Yeah,
just a progressive build of pressure. And I often use the flex of the ski to rebound me, to drive me into that new turn.
mm-hmm.
That's just,
Okay. Anybody else got any ideas? Big toe, little toe. I use picking up the inside pinky toe on mine, sometimes as a cue. Had really good success in lessons talking about, if I want to go this way, I pick up the pinky toe on this side, or try to pick up a rock with a pinky toe. That causes the foot to kind of naturally start to tip down. Now that's the inside ski. Oh, man.
So-
Chuck, at our mountain,
Yeah.
we talk about femur rotation, rotating the femurs, even
Yeah.
putting a piece of tape, surveyor on like bright duct tape on the femurs and concentrating on rolling them. So
Cool.
that's another concentration that I like that to think of that too.
That's another one I like to do too. When I start
Mhm.
talking about knee langulation,
Mhm.
do my knees, my skis are going straight, do my knees rotate, my femurs rotate to the inside,
Mhm. Mhm.
inside the turn?
Yeah.
You know, that's a really, really good cue,
Mhm.
I like that.
right? And then I could start picking up that pinky toe and look at that, my knee goes out.
Mhm.
You know, I got, you know, I almost have to pressure the in front of the boot in order to go because I got thinking about that pinky toe. These are all cues. I love these cues. Anything else?
Yeah, I like to think about driving with the big toe on my outside ski
Mhm.
and then put my pinky toe of the other ski on the snow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
cool.
Chuck, you remember a couple of years ago, you did one with me that I thought was great. You called it, I think, Fox and Hound, where the inside knee is the, no, yeah, Fox and Hound, the
Fox and
inside knee is
hound,
the
they're chasing
fox.
each other. Yes,
lead-
exactly.
Leads the hound into the turn.
So one fox, yeah, the inside knee or the outside knee chases the inside knee. And then they reverse. And then you got the outside knee, the new outside or in the new inside knee is now being chased by the new outside knee. Those are great
Yeah.
cues too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Russell Fleming had done a skit, a thing about that that was really funny and actually very educational. If I can find it, I'll put it on the chat or email it to you because I'm not sure how to do all these
That-
tech.
That was
But-
hilarious.
Oh, you've seen it, right? But the thing about body parts is they're all interrelated, and actually when we're talking about cues, you know, the new lingo is that external cues sort of
Yeah. They want more
lead
external.
to a longer retention than internal cues, external cues being outside of the body as opposed to internal cues which relate to body parts. So should we not be talking about external cues instead of talking
I
about
will
body
talk
parts?
I will talk about external cues all day. However, I think what we need to be doing, and one of the things that's in that's not really in that book, is that we don't want to laden them with too much information. And we don't want to mix cues.
No.
A cue is a cue. Cue is meant for performance. But without any understanding of why you're instituting the cue, it really doesn't make any sense. So they really need to know, hey, yeah, I'm using this pinky toe thing to kind of pick up a rock, right? The rock would be the internal. That's considered a hybrid because I have an external, it's not a far, but it's a near, but it's an effective one. But pick up that rock, but without understanding why we're doing it and why it works, it's not an effective cue. But I wouldn't come in and say, okay, well, now I'm going to layer another cue on top. Because that usually confuses the hell out of people when you start doing that. I go, well, I can only think of one thing at a time.
Sure.
You know, except in golf where I got 300 different individual thoughts going on in my swing. And Scott's over there nodding yes.
We should play sometime, Chuck, because I'm the same way.
Oh, you don't want to play with me. I actually shot even on Wednesday, so. But
I think like that's interesting you said that, Chuck, because I think sometimes different tasks require different cues, internal or external, to see
Yeah.
what actually works for the client. So, I mean, you try the big toe thing and then you might move to something else and then
and
you might.
know what? The big toe
else, and
thing might
it's
not
fun.
work, right?
Yeah.
It may not work. It might be, hey, you know, one of the other things about cues, and we could go on and on about cues, trust me. I mean, this is a topic that if we came out, we would be here for 2 hours talking about cues. Another thing about a cue is that the best performing cues are going to be the ones that the client came up with themselves. So, you know, it might be, hey, put your hand on the outside or on the inside knee to kind of help you. And this is a weird one for me. I put my hand on my inside knee to kind of help me remember to push against it. It's kind of like a weird phenomena that if you put your hand on your inside knee while you're skiing, your knee will actually move into the hand. But that might not work for somebody. So we would have to come up with something a little bit different. And that's where that interaction between us and the clients become really, really important. You know, what do we know about the client? What do we know about their history? What has worked in the past? Things of that nature. Maybe they're not a feeler. You know, maybe they're 100% a thinker and they need some kind of cue to help them in a different way. You know?
So from a teaching perspective, Chuck, I just had a thought on that. What if you take your point, they've got to come up with it, put them in the position that you want them to be in and
Yes.
say, what would help you in your head to keep you in this position, and see what they come up with.
Yes. And you know what? If they discover it, they take ownership of it.
Yeah, I like that.
And
Well,
then-
that's
and you-
called
they do it.
experiential teaching.
Exactly. It's experiential teaching, right? We're creating an experience, but we're not experiencing the experience. They got to experience the experience for themselves. And the only way we can do that is to help them discover how that works. So, like I said, when you start talking about cueing and things like that, that's an hour's worth of conversation right there. And for those of you who don't know, there's actually a book about it called The Language of Coaching, and it's from a guy named Winkleman. And it's a very, very good book if you love that kind of stuff. If you want to look him up on YouTube, he actually explains all the concepts in the book on YouTube in a very, like, what is it, 4 or 5 parts, Rebecca?
Yeah, I think that, is it on the PSIA website, or was that one of the T-Togs? Was it one of the T-Togs that Stacy Garish,
Oh, she might have been. I don't really.
I think may have done, because I've seen them somewhere.
They're on YouTube. They're on YouTube, and he has like an hour and 25 minutes on each one, explaining a couple of chapters at a time. Really, really, before you go teach next year, do that. Watch those videos. It's very, very good. It's really kind of important. I'm losing people already, so I'm going to keep moving. All right, so bam. All right. Think. All right, and then we have, this is what you were talking about, Scotty, relative edge angles.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the relative edge angle, both of those skis on that photo right there, or that graphic right there, are at 45 degrees. But one of them is at a greater edge angle compared to the slope than the other one is. And as we move through the turn, the relative angle that we have changes in both the relationships to the skis and also to the relationship to the skier. Because a skier at the top of the turn might be pointed this way, and at the bottom of the ski, he might be going back the other way. So we have to always be conscious of that too. And then the ideal position for anybody is going to be at the apex, where you're pointed mostly down the hill. And that's ideally, you should have your highest edge angle there or after. If you're going to be, if you want the highest edge angles at the apex, it's more of a deflection style turn. And if you're looking for it to manage speeds and forces, it might be a little bit later in the turn. But what do most of our guests do? They get to here and they're sort of flat, and then they get to here and they suddenly spin and turn and stop. Put a lot of edge angle on there, a lot of pressure. Cool, makes sense? Questions on that? We don't need much of an angle at the top of the turn to get things started, honestly, because of the way skis are built. We don't have to do that. All right, so ideal early edging, and this is the ideal, this is not the perfect. This is because we're gonna get into that. Early edging initially comes from the crossover of the center of mass with the skis, which creates a new inclination. And I have a video. Already got him up? Whoops, wrong one. No, I don't. Because we can never have too much Riley. And we're gonna watch what happens at the beginning of the turn. Obviously, he's at the end of the turn here. I love this video. It's super slow motion. Right, and then he gets to right here. This is the part where he's like, okay, I'm disengaging. Then the center of mass crosses over. And that's going to be mostly inclination, isn't it? And then he starts to add angulation. And this is something I heard not too long ago, and I've asked other people about this, and nobody said yay or nay. They've always said, I've heard that inclination is how we create edge angles, and angulation is how we manage pressure. And I think for the most part of what he's trying to do there, which are some kind of like medium radius turns, I would 100% agree.
So inclination occurs sort of at the beginning of the turn, and
Yeah,
you get maximum angulation at the apex because of
Yeah.
the pressures generated. Is that what
yeah,
you're
that's when
saying?
that's when the pressures start to build, right? Like right here, you could see the angulation in the knees and hips, but he gets to like, what'd you skip the good part for? Don't skip the good part. Yeah, like right
Well,
here.
angulation's what lets you get over your alignment over your outside ski
Yeah.
too. So it's critical for your balance.
Yes, you're skipping ahead to next week, but yes.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. It's exactly what I want to hear. Yes, angulation was really important for outside ski pressure the last couple of weeks because it helps you align the center of mass. It's no different with edging. So he's already inclined, and now he's edging in as he engages with the snow. Angulation. But the top of the turn, it's more inclination. This is just they keep skipping the transition part of it. I hate that. So here he is here, and it's just, and there's a little bit, a start of some angulation, but for the most part, he's tipping to the inside because the center of mass is crossed over. But he's already created some nice edge angles. And one of the things I didn't get was some Ted Ligety, because Ted Ligety was a master at doing this in a race course. He could create these crazy inclined edge angles. And just about the time he wants to engage the ski, here comes the angulation. Bam, engaged it, and then he's off the ski almost immediately. Does this make sense for
Well,
everybody?
Yeah, and if you think about it, the angulation kind of has to happen after the legs are turning separate from the upper body, after the legs rotate past alignment with the chest and hips.
Yeah,
Right?
and
Because that's where you really
what he
can
does here
angulate
is
just by
that he
tipping
does
at the hip.
Yeah, he does it like right here, right? And he gets in this position, and you can see the knees cross over almost before the center of mass. So he is creating some angulation there,
Well, that's inclination.
but it's mostly inclination, right? It's mostly inclination. Cool.
So in a way, angulation occurs by just the legs moving away from the center of mass.
Yes. Angulation is then used to manage pressures, but wait, I thought edging begins from the ground up. There's your question answered there, Scotty.
Yeah.
It depends on your desired outcome. When I'm looking at a bump skier, does he want to incline?
No, he couldn't turn that fast.
He would die.
And he's not changing direction, so he really doesn't have to have the
Right.
center of mass come very far inside the turn.
Exactly. Exactly. It's your outcomes for dynamic short radius turns. Are you really inclining that much? And here is, of course, we have beautiful, wonderful Richie Berger again. Because why not? Doing a bump run in one of these technical things. You're going to find, you're going to look and you're going to see, you're like, where's this inclination going to be happening?
Well,
Very subtle, but it is happening.
It's happening, but it's really subtle, right? It's more reaching than it is like intentional. Because he just gets himself in trouble every time he tries to incline. And then here's some more Richie and some Riley. Right? Here's some short radius turns. Yes, there's inclination, but it's followed up by a lot of angulation very quickly. So you always have both. But it depends on the outcome you're trying to get to. And the one I don't have is, you know, when you got a downhill skier, somebody who's in the middle of a downhill race, that's like all inclination, isn't it? With some angulation. And again, that's really meant to manage the pressures and manage the fine tuning. Because the one thing you can't do when you incline is unincline. You know, the adjustments come from the angulation and not from the inclination. Questions?
Hmm.
I know we could watch them all day, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, cool. Slipping, skidding, steering, and carving. This is the last little thing. I ripped this from an APCSI brochure that they brought out for interski. I really, really liked it because I saw it on a video and they were just kind of quickly showing it, not explaining it. I was like, where did that come from? Luckily, it was on their website and I was able to rip it from there. But basically, it shows, I love this. It shows the skidded turns, steered turns, carved turns, railed turns, and pure carved turns, as well as mixed performances. I know this is what Jimmy was trying to explain to us at one time on the lift, Scott, about how
Okay.
you do shorter radius turns, but you have to skid in some way, even at the top. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing constant acceleration and
Right.
things are not going to work out well.
Does anybody ever really do pure carved?
I don't know. I do it all the time. I love it. I love putting the skis on edge and just going.
And is it truly pure carved or is it
No,
a
I reach
delusional
about
carved?
45 miles an hour and then I go, this is becoming uncomfortable. But yes, from 0 to 45 to 50 miles an hour is a lot of fun. And next year, I mean, that was one of the things that Frankie was like all over me about. He goes, you know, you're a lot better at hanging on to those edges than you believe. You kind of quit on them. You should be driving more and trying to outperform the skis. And so that's what I'm going to be doing a little bit of next year, is trying to do more pure carved, even though Jim's always like, do less pure carved, dummy. So it's going to be a combination of two of those in some way. Because like on a slope like Norwegian, which is like, what, 50 something degrees, you cannot pure carve. It's impossible. You get 2 turns in, you're already going max speed.
Hmm.
All right, and then I put this was the bottom part of that graphic that was on there, and I'll share this if you guys are interested in it. I thought it was really cool. I was just noticing how we're talking about all of these lower performance turns up here, steered parallel, steered short turns, how the blends are more closely related. But when we start turning into carving, how pressure and edging start to kind of take over. And then when you get into pure carving, how edging and pressure are at their, you know, they're almost entirely dependent upon the ski performance. All right, cool. That's it.
Jack,
Question?
was that slide from British Association of Ski Instructors?
No, Australian.
Australian, okay.
Australian. It's APSI, American Professional, or sorry, American. Australian
Australian.
Professional Snow Sports. And by the way, go to their website because they have a tremendous amount of information about the last interski on there, including a lot of like the, you know, videos and things like that. If you're a ski junkie, a ski nerd like I am, you kind of nerd out on that stuff.
Right, thank you, and I'll see whoever shows up tomorrow, 1 o'clock in New Jersey.
Where is that
See,
again?
It's at the American Dream Mall.
So I'll see you there, Alona.
I will. I'll see you there, Rebecca.
Okay,
It's a very
Uh,
challenging intermediate run.
It is?
I'm teasing.
Oh.
It allows us to get on our skis.
it's all of 160 feet vertical.
Yeah.
Well, that's like right up my alley.
Right, kind of like any slope in Kansas.
Right.
All right, you'll have a good
Thank you.
evening. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll
Bye.
see you tomorrow. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, any feedback that you guys have, please give it to me because I'm always interested to know what it is.
Okay.
Please. I mean, I need to know if I'm not meeting expectations.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck.
All right, no problem. Did you guys get anything new out of this?
Thank you.
Scotty, Gordon, anything new?
I don't know anything new, but it just keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, different ways to look at it, and it's always good to hear different people's take on things.
Yeah. That's why I keep listening in on all these things. I was listening to a children's the other day and I was like, and they were talking about psychomotor. And just the way that Mike kind of wrapped it all up was like, oh man, that just is so much better than kind of
Yeah.
what I was thinking. So
did you see Tom Gelly's latest one? He was talking about inside ski edging. He was talking about moving the inside ski more to the outside than driving with the knee. You're gonna
that was
maybe
like,
take a look at that next week.
yeah, we can take a look at that if you want to. I got no problem with that. Trying to talk
That-
about a little bit of inside ski movement.
I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't mind at all talking about that more, because I have been working the move he said don't do when you're trying to get higher edge angles. So that would be great for me.
Yeah, there's been a couple, that kind of reinforced what I was thinking about and working on later in the year was balancing more over the outside foot and then, instead of having a support leg and having a little wider stance, that support, it becomes a support leg, becomes a tripod, and you end up putting more weight on, and if you put more weight on it, you lose your ability to angulate more effectively and stack over the outside leg. It kind of shifts the position of your hip pelvis a little bit. And I noticed that a lot in my rollerblading this year. That if I can be more conscious of getting outside of that, out on that outside rollerblade by bringing that other foot in closer. I also subscribe to the Projected Productions too. And they did a whole series on rollerblading, and they kind of give me a little bit different, even though I've been doing it for a couple of years, 3 years, they gave me a little different idea about how to turn this rollerblades more effectively on the back wheels. And that's helped a lot,
Interesting.
keeping my feet closer. If I keep my feet close together, I can't support myself on the inside leg. It gets very hard. And it allows me to twist that outside foot better. But the one thing, that was a thing that I was like, in the middle of this, I was like, man, that was something I wanted to look at this year was, there's just something weird that's happening when you're making a turn here and you want to start the turn. And why is there a link between the inside leg rotation and outside leg rotation? Because it just feels like to me, and I noticed it in skiing as well as in rollerblading, that if you twist the inside leg by, again, that knee moving out into the inside, twist it, the outside leg moves with it. And I don't know if there's like a mechanical reason why that's happening. And I've been kind of looking around, and I don't think anybody's ever really talked about it.
I think it's self-preservation, isn't it?
It could be, but it is weird. If I want to turn really quickly on rollerblades, I turn my inside foot and it goes whoop right around.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Mhm.
Both of them. It's like that outside one's afraid, even though it's got all the weight on it, it's afraid to be left behind.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was gonna, earlier this year, I marked that down as something I wanted to investigate, and I haven't done it yet. And I need to ask like Jim or somebody with maybe a little bit more nuanced brain than I have about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I can tell, there is some kind of linkage that's happening. And I don't know whether it's in the pelvis or if it's just the fact that your legs are built that way or something's happening there.
Yeah.
It's like the inside leg, get it out of the way, and the outside leg follows.
But bilateral symmetry, maybe.
Something.
Twist your hand, your knee's gonna kind of tend to twist with it. Or your
The crazy thing is, Gordon, it's like it's not like you have to think about it. It's automatic.
Yeah.
Automatic. So I don't know. I mean, that idea of bringing that foot in helps a bunch there too. Because when you look at Jim Shaw skiing, his inside leg leads every single turn.
Yeah.
Every turn, whether he's on regular skis or he's on tellies, his inside knee always leads the turn.
All right, man. I gotta go. I have to hit the bathroom.
All right, my man. Have a good one.
Okay. Hey,
Talk
see ya.
later. Bye.